is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us. And with that, let's move to our final presenter. We have Alan Foreman, Be Secure. Alan, you can launch your slides and kick off when ready.
Hey there. Thanks, Hall. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed to the audience and to Hall and his team for making this happen today. It's important. I'm calling you from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and it's important for our journey that we get in front of US investors. Let me explain what we're doing, and I'll give you a chance at the end to answer any questions or throughout. We're in the business of transforming heart health. My name's Alan Foreman. I'm Chief Executive Officer of Be Secure, a company that I founded 9 years ago. Prior to that, I was 20 years in Accenture. I ran Accenture Life Sciences for Europe, spent a number of years actually in the northeast of the US. So we're on a journey right now. And the reason I reached out to Hall is that we're in the middle of a growth raise. It's a $12 million growth raise to take us to break even in our company, straight after an incredible turn of growth that we've just had from an FDA clearance, which I will explain to you. Of that $12 million, we have had committed already in the last 90 days, $4 million from existing investors, including a VC. And we've just had commitment of $5 million from a venture debt provider. So there's a lot of due diligence has been done. There are 5 venture capital firms in late stage due diligence, but the opportunity for speaking to you today, family offices and privates, is to close that last 2 to 3 million quicker than we might be able to do with VCs. My single goal right now is to commercialize this business. We've got a great opportunity, and let me show you why. As a summary of the business, we're 9 years young. We're based out of a lab in Belfast, Northern Ireland, which is housed in the middle of 2 25,000 student university campuses, Queen's University, Belfast, University of Ulster. And we've been working to build a team between the UK and the US of 60 or so biomedical engineers, clinicians, data scientists, electrical engineers, and commercial team, all with a good experience in the markets we operate. To be clear, we're a B2B software firm. We make business-to-business software. We actually have 2 device-agnostic FDA clearances, so they're in the bag. They took quite a while to get there. We've invested $35 million in the business, deep tech, and we're invested by venture capital and private equity from UK, and in the last 3 years, US. We have all the usual invention protection, patents, and we've got quite a number of partnerships. So how did we get started, and what do we do today? Our vision is to turn the world of healthcare, especially around heart health, from being reactive, so waiting until you have a stroke or maybe just arrhythmia or something more serious like heart failure, and turning that into something that's preventative. And we're on that journey. We've got a bunch of leading advisors, both European side and state side, and a team that is based across both geographies. Why are we focused on this? And we heard from one of the other presenters who's focused on stroke. And it's cardiovascular disease is the largest, the number 1 cause of death in the world today. 18 million people or so tragically die every year, and many others live with life-restricting causes from cardiovascular. And it's just recently come to light, middle of last year, from RTI, that the cost of this is not only great today, but soaring. And within our next generation, 25 years, the cost of this will be close to 5% of the US GDP, the cost of treating cardiovascular. It's also just been revealed that atrial fibrillation, which is one of the key determinants that may lead to stroke, has been 3 times underdiagnosed. And this is a crisis waiting to happen. We've been shouting about this for a couple of years. And since I've started this process with 10 Capital, And just 2 weeks ago, this headline broke. Philips, the #1 provider of heart monitoring technology in the US today, has had a FDA recall on their product. It's led to injury and death because of the inaccuracy, because of the issues with the process. This is precisely what we started our business journey on a number of years ago. Now, Philips happened to be one of my customers, so I will talk to you about this today and how we're helping. But there's been an awful lot of newsworthy stories of this about Be Secure, but also about recent investment in the space of heart health. And that's why, as an investor, you might be interested. So what is it? Our solution is FDA cleared. It comes in two forms. One first form, which was cleared 3 years ago, is embedded software onto physical devices. I'm wearing today a device called a Whoop device, which is manufactured out of Boston, Massachusetts. Our software is in the latest version of the Whoop device. Our software is in the current versions of Fitbit devices that are out there. So we went to market serving the worried well, the wellness market, which could give better accuracy from moving from basically light technology, the little light that shines behind these devices, into pure ECG technology, medical grade technology. And that's where we got started. However, we didn't stop there, and my passion was always medical. That's where I grew up in my career, and it was to address this huge problem that the healthcare service today is reactive, and we need to change that. So we're working on both of these, and let me tell you a little bit more about this software. Our key core, our first product to be cleared, is essentially an on-device product. We've worked with the leading semiconductor manufacturers, Texas Instruments, Analog Devices, STMicro, and Qualcomm, to put our software onto their chips that goes into every consumer device today and every medical device today. Okay, and that helped us to drive the consumer technology growth that has been put into Whoop and various other technologies I'll explain. Latterly, we then decided, when we went after the medical market, it was a completely different proposition. We worked with hospital systems, healthcare systems, and medical device companies to understand what problems they face today. And the biggest challenge they faced was the fact that there's electrical noise, there's motion artifact, there's an awful lot of noise around capturing a very difficult signal, the ECG. It's the #1 biomarker as you go into a healthcare environment, but you have to be connected generally to a 12-lead wet electrode system somewhere across your chest area and lie very still in a hospital environment. That's very, very restrictive, and it's our goal to put that same technology at the same quality level into everyday devices and to put those patient monitoring systems that only exist in hospitals today into the home to get as good quality as you can. That's the way we're going to transform this industry. And we've achieved that. We achieved it in September when the FDA granted us clearance for device agnostic software to be delivered in the cloud to all existing medical devices that exist out there, whether it's an implantable loop recorder from Medtronic, or a Holter monitor from Boston Scientific Preventus, or a patch from Dexcom. We can integrate with all of those technologies without the need for them to go back for further FDA clearance. So let me give you a little bit more as we pare back, as it were, cut into the onion. Let me talk about the validation of what we're getting here. The validation, and there we go. As we can see our screen, this is what happens in today. If your physician gives you a 28-day Holter because you've come in with some condition, more than likely Philips or Boston Scientific in North America, that will be provided to you by one of those two companies. The data that comes back looks like the data in the top half of this graph. And electrophysiologists, Philips employ 1,400 of these people, and cardiologists have to sift through this to see which is false information, which is good information, before they can diagnose what's going on in your body. Well, put our cloud system on top of Philips' system or in the healthcare environment without the need for any FDA clearance. We simply switch it on top, and the data that comes through, clinically proven, gives a much cleaner signal, leading to the cardiologist to make an instant or almost instant decision. So we've got lots of applications on these two technologies. They're available on device and in the cloud, which was a key requirement of both our customers in the consumer space and medical. But we're not just improving by 1 or 2%. We're improving by huge levels, transformative levels. And the way we did this as a small company in Europe is we took a different optic on this altogether. We used cybersecurity experts in signal processing. We used experts from the field of automotive and aeronautical to look at how to gather a signal in that entire signal chain from the body, from the sensor to the analog front end, which translate the analog signal into digital, into the signal processing capability itself, and then to greater algorithms that healthcare professionals seem to want. So we've worked for 2 years on the medical side before we got clearance and approval from that body of experts. We have the world's largest database for heartbeats, both healthy and unhealthy, some of which, quite a lot of which, we had to gather ourselves in clinical trials on both sides of the pond. And we've used some of the leading research institutes again to gather that. So this is a journey. We're at what we call our Series A extension, our growth raise. We've captured the ECG market for software. That's the journey of commercialization we're on right now. But we have other technologies down the line which have even more exciting possibilities. So how do we make money? We work in these two huge markets, and we work with the same technology to serve both markets. It does not need to be altered in any way. Some customers choose to sync it a little bit with their systems, but in general, it is off-the-shelf packages of algorithms that are completely black boxed and serve to process data, not hold or maintain individuals' patient data, for example, which, as many of you will know, is a bit of a no-no in the healthcare world. We make the money from project work, but mainly in our recurring space royalty for the on-device model. That's the type of technology that's in Whoop, it's going into Aura, it's in Fitbit today and various other technologies. But in the future, and actually we're switching on now, it's in healthcare providers, but on a cloud basis, software as a service. We just got clearance in September. We've already got recurring revenue paying customers in North America who are using our service in their live environment. So that was a very, very speedy route to market for us. We are small, so we know our limitations. And I think as an early stage company, it's wise to focus. We have a great breadth, as you see here, for the areas that we can dip into. We're already doing some work on the far right. Hospital telemetry, that's remote patient monitoring is another phrase, or in the implantable loop recorder space with Medtronic. But we've decided, first of all, to win in the ambulatory ECG space. Let me dive one stage further. There are 103 providers of this service in North America today, supporting 5 reimbursement codes from healthcare systems. And we know this market inside out because we hired guys from the top 3 on this list here to serve us in the last 2 years. We're working with all of the top 10, as you see here today. Some are further along than others in their evaluation of our technology. And as you saw from that headline just 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, Philips have hit the very, very massive obstacle. And all those other competitors are queuing up behind them. No longer can people look to just achieve what Philips have achieved. In fact, Philips and everyone has to up their game. They cannot do that with more resource. There are no more resource in the cardiology field or to be trained fast enough, but they can do it with our technology, and that's why it's a pure decision to build or buy. Our revenue was $1.4 million last year, and we have got a forecast of just over 8 million for this year. But I can tell you now, 4 million of that's already booked. And we have contracts pending and in legals of various stages, all of which we can't depend upon or when they start, of $12 million. Already, this is January, and that's a very good position. That's all come very fast paced off the back of our recent clearance. Quoted at the bottom here on our forecast is that we may make $1 to $3 per study in our SaaS model. We have just made an agreement with a tier 2 ambulatory ECG provider for $22 per study. So we can do potentially much more than this. That's the upside. So why am I here? Let me remind you of the investment pitch. A company called Orlando Health, which is focused in hospital systems in the southeast, invested $10 million late 23. That was to help us get FDA clearance and then to get into the process of commercialization. We have, as I said earlier, already committed 4 million from existing investors, one venture capital firm, First Capital Ventures from up in Denver, and the balance is coming in from venture capital or venture debt. Venture debt, we have a secured term sheet of $5.2 million from a company called Beachpoint, which is joint US and UK focused. We're looking for you guys potentially to put in up to 2 million. Ideally, we'd look for minimum check size of 250K. We would consider lower if you want to speak to us, but we can also go higher than 2 million if you think you have that source. That source, we look for speed. I want to focus my full team's activity on commercializing the top 10, in fact, the top 30 ambulatory ECG companies right now. So to finish off, and I look forward to any questions you may have, we're on track to be processing 1 trillion heartbeats per day. That actually only represents all of the customers in North America from one insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield. You will beat 103,000 times a day or so, and they have 105 million insured, and that is 1 trillion heartbeats. They are one of the venture capital firms that we're talking to, Blue Cross Blue Shields, Sandbox, and Blue Ventures Fund. And we have, through building the software, as Google put it, the intel inside of biosensing to reach everyone on the planet. I'll take any questions you have about the company, our background, the investment, whatever you wish. Thank you very much, Hall.
So great presentation, Alan. First question is, what have you done to put in factors for scaling the business? We're moving into a very high level, high growth. What are you doing to get ready for that growth curve?
Yeah, two things. We designed the SaaS software that it's implementable and configurable to whatever extent the customer wants. Actually, we've a team of engineers that sit with our customers to configure it whatever way. But what we found so far in 22 of the medical customers that we've worked with is they don't even seek configuration changes. But one of the early guys, a company from Oregon, TZ Medical, they did require some configuration. It took about 8 hours of our engineers' time. So it is out of the box software that can give transformative levels. I can quote informal reports that we've just fed back to Boston Scientific on their current system. And with our uncustomized deployment onto their environment, we saw improvement of 40% in the data throughput. And what that means for them is, with the same number of staff, they currently do 2 million studies a year. They can do 40% more than that with the same staff next year if they choose. So they can go after Philips market at a more efficiency. So the scaling is in how we've designed the technology. We are scaling our sales team. We've got 2 more salespeople to put in this year, but we don't need to scale that much to serve our markets that you saw today.
What's the average design time or design in time for new customers? How long does it take to design it in and get it on the market?
Yeah, from the initial conversation with TZ Medical, who are a tier 2, tier 3 provider, in the Northwest. They, from the initial meeting through to onto their live environment, it was 4.5 weeks. Boston
Great.
Scientific have done 3 studies since September. The first one was on a small number of patients' data. The second was a larger base. The third study that finished just at Christmas time was on a very large, very difficult database that they would handle in a month. So the results are back, and we know they're transformative. And that's gone to their investment committee to see now can they bring that into their system. So that's 4.5 months, and that's a tier 1 provider. So it depends on the scale, basically, and how much they're in a position to take. We are on a list of priorities I would suggest that Boston Scientific have right now. However, the temperature has really risen since this unfortunate news coming from Philips two weeks ago for everyone to up their game in the data quality space.
Right. And the final question is, what's the average life cycle of one of the deals? How often do they come back for redesign? Every 2, 3, 5, 10 years? I know it ranges, but what do you think the average is?
Yeah, for HeartKey Rhythm, which is in the market today, every deal we're penning is 3 years in duration. However, let me give you an example of Whoop, which is one of our customers with HeartKey Core. That's a 3-year contract. In fact, for anyone who knows that product, they're about to launch Whoop 5.0 in April with our technology in it, and that'll last 3 years from that launch point. And we get royalties on every device. But we've already started a separate contract to design Whoop 6.0, which will be on the shelves in about 2 years' time. So that scales on top of it. Interesting, another customer is using both our products. So Aura, which is a smart ring designer from San Francisco to you guys, great product. They're actually taking on our embedded core product as a royalty, and they're also taking on our SaaS product to give additional features that the customer can subscribe to. So that's a hybrid, and therefore we're going to have 2 contracts with them that will go simultaneous. Okay.
Great. Very good. Well, that's the end of our questions. Thanks so much, Alan, for a great presentation. With those in the audience, if you haven't voted yet, go ahead and vote on the poll. With that, we're going to go ahead and close out our session today. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We had a great presentation from Herbert, and all the other presenters did a great job as well. I want to thank you guys for coming today. We'll be in touch with the follow-up, the recording of these sessions, and reach back out in touch and make introductions where those are requested. But I want to thank everybody for their time and for their presentation. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.
Just so everyone knows, we will not be running our breakout rooms today. We will do them the next event. Have
Thank
a
you.
good
Good ball.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Halty Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.